This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 305 for Wednesday, February 6th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me again this week, Miss Megan Townsend, and she is Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters. Hello.
Hi.
How is your day going?
It's going. How's yours?
Baited question. We just finished a really solid pre-show rant about all the frustrations in life. And it's funny how you can kind of, something I have to say about podcasting is I will genuinely be in a better mood when the show is over. Like I like doing this kind of stuff and talking with friends about nerdy things and all that kind of stuff always kind of lightens the load in terms of just the day-to-day grind and stress of being either an independent creator or just life in general. I've talked to several people over the last week or so that are like working until 10 or 11 at night. And this is day jobs. These are things that are supposed to be 9 to 5. And they're just putting in all these extra hours. And hopefully for recognition, sometimes not. You know, I've got other friends that are, you know, their jobs are in flux and they're not sure if they're going to have a job. It's like the day-to-day life right now in 2019. I don't know whether it's just me projecting, but I feel like everybody is just stressed out.
Yeah. I just feel like it's this time of year. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I know that, like, for my mental health, January and February are usually not good months.
Post-Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like post-Christmas and it's winter and you're kind of just tired of the cold and it's
a lot of
like
inside
a slow season.
in Canada. Yeah, people aren't outside as much. Depending on what your job is, you don't necessarily. Well, even if you are outside, you don't want to be outside because it's minus,
it's too cold and
20 or something.
Yeah.
Well, I've been having a lot of tech issues this week, and as a designer, I tend to be a little critical about stuff, but you get used to things over time, and when things change, I always try to approach it for like, okay, well, am I not liking this because it's a change and I just don't know where things are, or is it something that makes no sense? Like, is it a bad design? Famously, I dislike Illustrator. People are always surprised for me as a designer and an illustrator that I don't like, Adobe Illustrator. And the problem that I have is that, a lot of tools across, softwares are very similar. Paintbrush is a paintbrush is a paintbrush, etc. And then in Illustrator, it's different. It's always in a different spot. It does a different thing. And there's many, many tools that are like that. So I find it very cumbersome to use. So I was posting a new YouTube video. I finally had an opportunity to chill out and play some Minecraft on the weekend. I did some streaming. It was really, really fun. Shout out to all the people in my Twitch community for coming and hanging out. Despite the fact that I forgot to tweet. I composed the tweet, even took a cool kind of hip photo of my desktop. Like, I'm ready to stream. And then I forgot to hit send. So the whole time I was streaming, that tweet was composed and sitting on my phone doing nothing. But still, quite a few people showed up and we had a lot of fun. But in the post process of taking that video and editing it and getting into a bunch of like just endless tech issues, finally this morning I was able to upload it and then met the back end of the YouTube UI for uploading stuff now. Wow.
Yeah.
Like guys, I know I often come down from a high horse, my design horse. It is terrible. Like things as simple as updating the thumbnail image. It allows you to surf to your desktop. You click on the image you want. You upload it. And then YouTube doesn't show you that it's changed. So you're like, well, I want to publish this video. And if I link it anywhere, then the thumbnail is what's going to show up for people. But right now, the thumbnail is some default frame from the middle of the video. And that's not what I want. I want something with the title on it and the episode number that I just uploaded, but it's not showing. And the only way to check to see if it worked is to save the draft and then load the video in another window and check. And it's just like, what? it's such a simple thing. It's like, imagine if buttons on your computer, when you clicked on them, did not give you any feedback. No sound,
Right?
no visual. What if the save button doesn't work? Hey, by the way, the YouTube save button doesn't work.
I
Ridiculous.
haven't messed with it yet since you know, since I don't know, I haven't uploaded a YouTube video in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing a channel rebranding, so I'm trying to make some new graphics and stuff for the channel and
Yeah.
new thumbnail templates and what have you.
Cool.
So I've been working on a lot of back end stuff outside of YouTube right now, and I'm afraid from what I've been hearing from a lot of people and a lot of YouTubers who I
It
follow that are
is.
just like, this sucks, this is stupid, this is bad, and I'm not into it. They got rid of their end screen annotations,
No, they didn't. The
like
end
the
screen
end cards.
annotations are there. They're just
Oh,
in a
really?
oh no, it's the cards or
The
the
cards. Yeah, that's what I
like
meant.
the cards that you can click on mid video are not there anymore. The
Yeah.
end screen annotations, as they call them, are there, and they've completely redone how you do that, and it is kludgy. It was terrible before, but at least there was a 3-step process that once you figured it out, you could follow. It's like
Yeah.
7 steps now. And
Oh boy.
after you've done 7 steps for each individual annotation, usually there's 3. For me, it's a subscribe, it's a link to the podcast, and then it's another video that you might want to watch. So after you've done these 21 steps to complete these things, uh, it doesn't save. You click save
Right.
and it says video is still processing. And I think, no, on the other screen, the video is done processing. That's why I waited until it was done processing before I started working on the end screen. And if you try to leave that particular tab, it will say, are you sure? Do you want to discard the changes? And I thought, well, no. So I opened up the video and watch it on YouTube as a draft, and I'd scroll to the end. And sure enough, my annotations are there. Everything is functioning as it was. You know, it took me forever, but at least it's working. And so then I have to exit the tab, and then it discards all changes. And I have to do 21 steps again. Did this a total
Mm.
of 3 times today before I decided, like, all right, well, here's my new process. Open up the YouTube editor, do the 21 steps to make the end screen, leave tab, open new tab, go into the YouTube editor again, edit the title, the description, what playlist you want it on, add a thumbnail. That doesn't work. Open up in a new tab, continue the process until everything's done, and hit publish. Wait until the thing is on your website, on your YouTube site, check it, and then don't use the UI on YouTube, but just close the browser tab. And it's going to give you a warning like, are you sure you want to leave? And you're like, yep, because I don't want this browser tab to communicate with YouTube at all. Because if it does, it erases your progress. Stupid. Like, this is now live. This is not a beta. This is the only way to edit videos on, or not even edit videos. I'm not editing anything. All my editing is done. I'm adding annotations and stuff. I'm at
Right.
the point where I might be just like, screw annotations. I need to look into the analytics to find out how many people actually click on this stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
might just put something at the end of my video in a Premiere template that just says, hey, if you like this video, please subscribe below. Check out my podcast. The link is in the description. And then that's it. Because this it's adding so much time to what should be a very short process.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't like the way YouTube has been managing any of its stuff lately. Like even from like the editing standpoint. Like I don't edit in the in-house editor. But I know like some people like to add some music in there and stuff, and I've heard awful things about that. Um I've heard of a lot of YouTubers that I follow have been complaining about a lot of the like the back end stuff, how they've been like flagged for things or like demonetized for no reason because they have this new automated demonetization algorithm that
Oh yeah.
they've implemented. And so one of the YouTubers that I follow, her name's Mikey. Her channel is called Glam and Gore, and uh, she does effects makeup tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to do like a torn up face, here's how you do it. And she very, very clearly states like how to educational, like all of her tags are like educational video, special effects, fake gore. Like she's making
Mm-hmm.
sure that she's, saying all these things, and she does have a warning in her channel. It's like, if you're not comfortable with gore, that's what this, like, it's in the name of my channel, uh, glam and gore, and it just makes it pretty obvious what it is, but it's all fake. But she, like, a lot of her videos, even though she's specified this is for educational purposes, this is for
Right.
like people who want to learn how to do effects maybe for film, but how to do it in a cheap and easy way. She goes through the safety procedures behind it. Um, she basically gives you all the information you'd ever want to know about it. But she's been demonetized on more than one occasion due to like automated algorithms
Right.
because,
They can't tell
uh,
the difference between her making
yeah,
gore makeup and a video of someone getting injured for real.
exactly.
Yeah, I've
Um,
this has been talked about on some of the podcasts that I listen to. This kind of thing, algorithms and how social media and places like YouTube and Tumblr are operating currently. If you're interested in that kind of stuff in detail, check out Daily Tech News Show, dailytechnewsshow.com. Fantastic podcast about stuff.
mm,
Not super techy, like it's tech editorial. Like they curate some top stories and then they kind of drill it down into real world scenarios. But what I find so interesting about this is that there's this weird catch 22 of the algorithm is failing because it's not good enough yet because it needs to be operational to learn, but then it's at the beginning it's like an infant algorithm, right? Like it's not working correctly.
right.
And companies like Facebook and YouTube and Tumblr are very quick to use these algorithms because it's a lot cheaper than it is to employ a person to go
Yeah.
through and say, oh, that's educational, that's makeup, that's real world stuff, people getting hurt. We don't want that on YouTube. And I appreciate that that's not going to be there. And from the standpoint of disallowing pranks and stuff where people get hurt on YouTube, I kind of appreciate the blanket just get it all off. Like I do kind of like the carpet bomb there. I obviously don't want people, like this YouTuber that you follow, Glam and Gore, to be demonetized because that sucks for their livelihood. Uh,
Yeah.
but there's also they were the I can't remember what episode it was. It was several months ago, but they were talking about job shortages and why don't these companies that have more money than we all know what to do with hire more people to either teach the algorithm or go through this stuff and manually say, oh no, that's fine. I can tell the difference because I'm a human and I can say, oh, she's a makeup artist. This is like Hollywood monster stuff. And the problem there, speaking earlier about January and February being, hard on, mental health months, the people that do those jobs don't last very long.
Yeah.
I think it was a listener wrote in or something, but somebody chimed in and said, like, look, there's a high turnover rate because these people can't watch these. I mean, imagine if your job 8 hours a day is to sit and watch YouTube and Facebook videos that should be banned, right? For
Mm,
either political, violent, race, like any kind of thing that is just not meant to be promoted and seen because it's terrible stuff. And that's your job, is to find the terrible stuff, watch it and go, yep, that's terrible, disallow. Like that would not be a good day, right?
yeah.
And so there's this catch 22 of like, well, we should have more people on the job, but it's like the last job that anybody wants. So it's tough. I don't side with the companies here. Like obviously, I think that they should just have a better algorithm. Like they
Yeah.
should employ find a way. You've got enough money to find a way to make this work.
Right.
But I can understand that it's not just a switch that you can flip and fix.
No.
I know that a number of artists that I follow have been complaining and bailing on Tumblr
Yeah.
because their content keeps on getting flagged as like having sexual content, being inappropriate. And it's stuff that like not even close. Like it's not even, yeah, okay, I can sort of see that I drew an anime bunny character and she's in a pink outfit. So yes, okay, it sort of looks like she's naked, but she's not really. I can sort of see the algorithm going, well, we're gonna flag that. Whereas, what's people are flagging is like, nope, this is a forest scene. Like why
Yeah.
is it flagged for sexual
Yeah. It's
content?
Yeah. The whole Tumblr algorithm has been like
Yeah.
absolute trash
Yeah.
the last little bit.
It's so
I
frustrating when, and especially
as
because
as a
there's,
user though,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't feel like there's really been any change really.
No.
Like, I think from an artist perspective, they're definitely is, but
Hmm.
there's still it's still kind of operation as usual. So
Yes. Yeah. I found that I've been spending a little bit too much time, not so much on social media, but just like in terms of internet. Like I've been trying to troubleshoot a lot. I've been trying to dig into stuff, and I mean, it has become more and more a. It's not so much that you have everything at the tip of your fingers. It's like you have too much at the tip of your fingers. There's not enough going on to drill down and weed out the chaff. And I'm talking about even just information. Like if you want to have, I mean, to talk about something fun, I've got a project that I'm working on in Minecraft that's going to be heavily influenced by Transformers and that kind of era of cartoons and stuff from my youth because I think it would be kind of fun and it helps to have kind of like a mission statement, kind of like a guide, right? And
right.
so I went looking for information on Transformers. Well, crap. There has been since the G1 cartoon in the 80s, there has been like 6 or 8 animated series. There's been 7 movies, I think. None
Oh
of
God, I don't
them
even know.
adhere to any kind of canon or they switch it. Plus there's video games. And so I had to reach out to an animator friend of mine who's very into Transformers. I mean, just like, dude, I tried to look up like something simple like what is really in terms of Transformer history an energon cube. Like I know in the basics of what it is, but I wanted to know the details so I could kind of
Mm.
spring forward with my personal project. And I found there were so many different sites, and so much of it was just like user conjecture and like anecdotal stuff. Like nothing was like a Wikipedia page where it says, like, you look up something like the history of Canada and you can pretty much, if you go to Wikipedia, chances are the stuff there is going to be pretty accurate in terms of how old the country is, when it was founded, blah blah blah. But you can't find that on stuff that's like popular culture. So I had to ask Daryl to help me out, and I had to go and look at this. And he recommended a site. He said like I find that this site is usually pretty thorough. They'll outline the changes. They'll show you like what's been wildly accepted or widely accepted. And then what is a little bit more like, well, it's an offshoot, but it's still kind of cool. And it was great. It was helpful. But like that website did not come up in any of my Google searches. So it's like, well, why is the site that someone I know is deep in this community using is not, why is that not top? Because
Mm.
that's not how the search algorithms work. It's not that the sites that are visited the most are not top on the sites. It's the sites that have the most Google foo. Like I get emails all the time. They're spam emails to the Citadel Cafe saying like, we've noticed that your site has got a lot of click through and you're not retaining many viewers. And it's like, well, yes, it's a podcast site. People are not supposed to surf. They're supposed to
Yeah.
come and listen and go if they even stay. Like usually people subscribe and then they get it on their device, right? But
Right.
so I know that there's this push to have your SEO and everything be be great, and I understand that there's a place for that, but it's so I find that the more and more stuff I want to look for, I have to weed through 20, 30, 40 items of nope, 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 not what I'm looking for before I find something that is either one, the information I want, or two, the information I want in a package that I can digest. Whoops, as I punch my mic. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things that I find so frustrating currently about the internet. Like I feel like there is this saturation point that we are reaching. Whether it's social media, whether it's the internet, whether it's uh, I mean, I'm thinking about other things too, but like even just media consumption, like the places that we go to watch things like YouTube or Netflix or whatever. There just seems to be so much out there that it's well the choice paralysis slash um, just not having a clear place to go, to
Yeah.
find the answers that you want. Even something as simple as looking into like the details of doing some Twitch streaming and stuff like that. Like I'm into 6 or 8 different, back end pages of like user agreements and details, and this is what this means. And it's like, well, why is this not all in one spot? Like it's really really frustrating.
Yeah. 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 I've just been, I think, pretty like jaded about the internet the last couple of days, just from all the things that I've been hearing and
uh,
seeing and whatever. But let's talk about something happier.
okay. In a weird kind of a weird not habit, but in a weird turn of events, I started to watch and did not finish two movies in the last week. Not because they're
Okay.
bad. Uh, a really interesting kind of thing I wasn't expecting. I really wanted to go see First Man when it was in theaters.
Mm.
It's a story about Neil Armstrong and his first step on the moon. Got Ryan Gosling in it, Claire Foy, a couple of other actors that you would recognize, but I don't remember their names right now. I won't get into it because I haven't finished it. I watched about halfway through. It's excellent. It's slow. It's a drama and it's a historical drama, so that's just kind of recapping certain points. Starts off really heavy. There's some pretty big life events that shape kind of Neil's character that you have to kind of go through. But and I've talked about this on the show, I've got some flight anxiety, so I don't like getting on planes. I will still do it because I like the destination, but I dislike
Mm.
actually getting on a plane. And
Oh,
here I
really? I
am.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, really? I did. I thought, I guess I don't remember the last time I spoke about it on the show, but I have mentioned it before. Uh, anyway, so here I am sitting and watching a film about astronauts. And
Yeah.
they did a very good job. Like I find it very interesting. I'm not going to stop watching it, but there was a point when they get on the Gemini mission, which is one of the test missions before going to the moon. They had to be able to launch the astronauts into orbit, and they had to dock with another spacecraft, and then they had to come back. And during the launch sequence, they did such an excellent job with the cinematography and the sound design of putting Neil and I can't remember who he went up with in the capsule that's on the top of the rocket, that
Mm.
they then shoot into space. Like if you've got any kind of anxiety or claustrophobia, total trigger. Like it wasn't hard
Yeah.
to watch, but I was kind of on the edge of my chair in a good movie excited way, kind of like when you're on the edge of your chair when Captain America is fighting the bad guys or he finally arrives and things are going to go down and you're like, yeah, like it was exciting, but it was exciting in a I'm really uncomfortable at the same point. So sort of like a horror movie, uh,
Right.
but I'm not turning away because it's not poorly done. It's very well done, and I still want to see how this happens. I was disappointed that I didn't get to see this in IMAX because I think it would have been a very, very cool experience.
Mm.
But the combination of being stressed lately in terms of life, I was watching this late at night, and I thought, I don't want to have rocket dreams, so so I'm gonna stop. Um, also,
Sorry.
I found that this was a pretty heavy film. Like there's a lot of detail, and I love the fact that they don't explain everything to you. This is not something you can have on the background. This is not something that you can even chat with people while you're watching. Like you have to listen to everything because the conversations that these astronauts are having are explaining like what problems they're having technically, what's going to happen next. They're hitting on important historical points. It moves
Mm.
through 5 years in the first act of the movie. Not quickly, but they kind of like, and here's a little note to say that time has passed because, like, Claire Foy in the next scene is 9 months pregnant. And you're like, oh, okay, so obviously some time has passed,
Right.
since the last scene. So like they do stuff like that. So I mean, even just like munching on chips and stuff like that, you have to be careful because you're gonna miss something. And I was getting tired, and I
Wow.
was like, okay, I don't want to miss any kind of key information. I even might rewind, 15 minutes before I continue watching it. But I mean, the acting in it is phenomenal. It's a very, very interesting story, and considering you look back, and this is 1965, so
Hmm.
over 50 years ago, when we first, as a race set foot on the moon, uh, the technical achievement of doing that and the risk and what they were working with, like computers were the size of rooms, right? Unbelievable, like really, really
Right.
cool. And I really highly recommend people checking it out, whether you're interested in sci-fi and space race stuff, and I shouldn't say sci-fi, this is science fact, the science history. um, but if you're into like really good dramas about like epic moments in human history, I would highly recommend it. I haven't finished it, so I can't say the whole film is good, but the first half of it was riveting. Just slow pace, but really, really interesting.
And it's
Um,
on Netflix?
no, no, it was
No.
iTunes or something. It's available for rent. It may still be in
Okay.
theaters. I think it might be up for an Oscar, so it might have returned in
Okay.
some select cities for theaters. But it's available on iTunes. What reminded me to seek it out was when I turned on one of my devices. It was in the marquee. You know, like this
Okay.
is new, and you're like, oh right, you know, Ant-Man and the Wasp is out. That's on Netflix now. And then
Yeah, I knew that.
yeah, and then so that and then you got First Man, and there was a bunch of other stuff. And so the first thing I did was I went to Netflix to see if it was there, which it wasn't, but that's fine. But worth it, like absolutely worth checking out. I thought.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I
Well,
started and
that-
I haven't finished is Lego Batman. I have less to say about that because I mean I think
My
people
sister was watching that the other day.
because again it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it was one of those new things on Netflix. And I thought, oh, good, something that's actually something that I've heard that is good quality that's on Netflix, as opposed to something that's on Netflix that I've never heard about it. It's like this is not something I've ever heard about in my life, and so you're taking a risk, watching it. And at the end of a long day, like I kind of want to watch something. I'm okay with watching something I've seen before. If I know it's good, like I'll watch almost any Marvel movie over again to chill
Yeah.
on to chill on a Saturday night. It doesn't matter. I find them so entertaining. But Lego Batman I'd never seen before, and I kind of have to be in the right mood. I tried watching the Lego Movie over again, and it's not nearly as good the second time.
Because you know the jokes.
Yeah. But this could be. I think Lego Batman is more rewatchable. It's very fast paced. Like have you seen
Yeah.
it before?
I haven't. No.
So I can't even repeat any of the gags because unless it was in a trailer that I've seen a couple times because they're so fast and they're so like left wing, like complete out there and not out of character but just out of the kind of things that you expect from a film like this. Like
Mm.
like the non sequiturs are just endless. And it's the thing that you're laughing at 2 minutes later because like did he just say he did? Like it's just, stuff like that are just really well done. For me, Robin steals the show. The
I've
way that
heard that before.
the way that they wrote the character, like there's this thing where like Robin goes through all these different bat suits and he's trying on all these different bat costumes, and it's a nod to like all the different toys and all the weird things that Batman did in the 80s in the comics where he's had like a rocket pack and he had armor and
Right.
he has blue spiky shoulder pads and like really weird stuff.
Hmm.
And they're flipping through it um obviously acknowledging the history but going like nope, that was dumb, that was dumb, that was dumb, that was dumb. Wow, what were you thinking there? And then like and they stop on like the dumbest thing yet. If you go and look it up, you're like, wow, Condiment Man, real thing. That's a real bad guy. And you're like, oh my God. So
Really?
yeah, oh
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Oh, some of it is just like, and they even taunt you in the film, like, you think we're making this up, we're not, trust us. And then they move on immediately, and you think, no, son of a gun, they are. So, but Robin puts on this tight suit, and he's like, well, his pants are kind of tight. I don't know if I can actually kick a bad guy in these, and he just rips them off. Like he just goes complete, like it's the Robin from the '60s show where he's got essentially like a gymnast leotard with no
Hmm.
leggings, like kind of like a V, he's wearing essentially green tighty whities, green
Yeah.
briefs, and
Yeah.
when he rips them off and throws them, he basically hits these previously just worn pants, hits Batman in the face with them. And they kind of stick there for a second, and there's this moment of like, it's just, and Batman's like, I can't even look at you right now. Like
That's really funny.
it's really well done. The only thing that I find so far that's getting old, it was funny for the first little bit, is that Batman is like really cocky, really self-absorbed. He's really over the top. Everyone in the movie is over the top because it's a Lego
Mm.
thing. But it starts to get old. Like Batman just doesn't listen to anyone. So the whole reason the plot is moving forward is because the commissioner or Barbara Gordon is talking reason because they're the straight character, and Batman is just, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to ignore you and say something completely ludicrous and self-absorbed. And that gag is over and over and over and over and over again. Whenever something important is happening, it's just Will Arnett being a dick. And I'm not a fan of Will Arnett,
Mm.
so
Not
it's
really either.
it's not written by him, so it's not his brand so much. And he's putting on a voice, so he's less of a presence. But the way that they wrote Batman and the way that they kind of do that kind of stuff, that sort of stuff gets old. But that's why I think that Robin sort of steals the show is because Robin has more ups and downs. Like because he's not meant to be this self-absorbed asshat, he can have softer moments, and he can not
Mm.
just be one note all the time. And what that allows him to be is he can be funny, but he can be funny when he's being quiet, or he can be funny when he's being sad, or he can be funny when he's being happy. Whereas Batman is just Batman, and he's always Batman funny all the time, and
Yeah.
that you start to expect it, so it's less of a surprise. Whereas like watching Robin do stuff and even just go through the motions, you're just like, oh my, you just have no idea what he's going to do next. And that's where, and then you get into like, well, the fact that you forget that it's Batman, forget the writing and the jokes, and just the animation is phenomenal. Like it looks like stop motion, but it's obviously CG, and everything is being built. So whenever Batman changes from like the Batmobile to the Batwing, it
Mm.
Lego like master builds itself, and like everything changes, and like it's fantastic. Even the fire is made out of Lego bricks. Like it's just so inventive and so
Yeah, I know,
fun.
that's cool. That's what I
And
liked about the Lego movie as well. It's like it
yeah,
had the same sort of style to it.
yeah, well, and didn't they had like, was it Morgan Freeman that was like the master builder or something in Lego
Yeah.
Movie? Yeah. So they have stuff like that I think is very, very unique, and I really like it. I mean, I highly recommend people watch it. It's going to be, your kids are going to be roaring because it's silly, over the top fun. But then you as an adult are not going to miss out, because some of the stuff that Robin says, you're just like, what? What did he just say? And the one other thing that I'll note before we move on is that Batman is a pretty violent franchise, right? Like he beats people up.
Mm.
And there's a lot of, all the bad guys and all the police officers always have guns and bombs. Well, bombs are easy
Yeah.
enough, you just kind of diffuse it. Every character with a weapon in this film, instead of sound effects for the gun, it's the character saying pew pew pew.
I love that. That's
It's
hilarious.
so
That's
it
good.
it's funny when when you see it the first time. You're like, oh yeah, that guy just said pew pew pew. That's hilarious. And then in like some big fight scene, it's like an entire squadron of police officers all running across the street, and all of them are shouting pew 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 at the same time as they're trying to fight this big bad guy. Oh my god! Like it, some stuff is just brilliant, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. I didn't have time last night, but it's really really well done. Um,
That's amazing.
yeah, so those are
I'll have to
my
give that one a
yeah,
watch.
those are my recommendations. What have you been watching?
I started Carmen Sandiego a couple days ago.
I hear that's good.
Uh, Adorable. Actually, really, really good. It's a really, really nice animation style. I remember watching like the '90s cartoon. There's two different ones. I watched the one that was called "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego,"
Right.
and it was she was more of like the antagonist. So you had two like protagonists who were cops who kept trying to catch her,
Right.
but she was always just like one step ahead of them all the time. So it was like,
Hmm.
oh, blast you, Carmen Sandiego. But this one is more. She's definitely the protagonist.
Right.
And it kind of gives a lot of background, a lot of light on her character. I don't know if it was written for the show itself or if it was more so, um, just actually like clarifying some of the character points. Because the whole idea is that she's been a mystery up until now. But she's kind of like, kind of raised in like the sort of thief school. Um, and so ends up becoming a, a master thief.
Hmm.
And it realizes that the school that she was part of is actually not super great. Like she ends up like she doesn't end up graduating for whatever reason, so she ends up like sneaking onto the final mission that the graduates are supposed to go on, and finds out that the group, it's called Vile, is not opposed to killing people.
Oh.
Like no one can be left who's seen what's going on. Like no loose ends
Right.
kind of deal. Um, so when she figures it out, she's like, "This is bad," and so she actively goes out of her way to kind of sabotage the whole operation. Um, and now her life as a thief is spent, stealing things from Vile. Like they're
Hmm.
like they're like a company, like a crew of master thieves, and her job now, like she's made it her mission to like steal things back from them and put it back where they belong.
Hmm.
Um, which is kind of nice. I don't know. I really really like it. It's also nice to have like a Latina character be like a forefront, and
Hmm.
there's some Canadian representation in there. So like she has her little computer guy that she kind of meets. Like she has a one of her things that she has like four Russian nesting dolls. And in one of them there was a phone. It doesn't really explain where the phone came from. I'm sure it will. Like she knows that she was born in Buenos Aires, and she's eventually going to go back there. But she does say in one episode, she's like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there yet. I'll get
Mm.
there eventually, but not right now. Um, and there's a phone in one of these Russian nesting dolls, and it manages to connect her to this kid who just introduces himself as Player. And he's in Niagara Falls, and she asks which side. He's like, the Canadian side. And she was like, great, you're on Ontario. And he was just like, yeah, cool. You know geography, good job. But it's kind of cute. I don't know. It's a really, really nice, just nice animation style. The first or second episode is like a backstory episode, which I don't usually like. I find like the whole narration, like backstory episode can be kind of dry, but this one was actually really, really well done.
Mm.
Um, and it was a super great and really really easy watch. I only got to like episode 3 so far, I think. But already it's proving to be really really good. Like I really like it so far. Like the first 3 episodes, I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
I'm in. This is great.
You know how it
Um,
all started, right?
what
So where in the world is Carmen Sandiego was an educational video game.
educational thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Oh,
It's a geography video game based in, I think it was 1980 something.
oh, okay.
I was in grade school, so like grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe mid 80s, 86, 85, something like that. But
Mm,
basically it was like a world almanac. You had to figure out. They would give clues as to where you're supposed to be going, and you have to figure out what country and what city she's in order to find her. And so the idea was that Carmen Sandiego was a thief, and you were supposed to try and catch her. But the clues that you were given were supposed to make you research and then learn a lot about the world and the countries of the world.
okay,
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
cool.
at that grade level, you're like, which continent is she on? Okay, well, she's on, at the time it was Asia. And it's like, all right, well, where in Asia is she? And it's like, well, is she in, South Korea, or is she in China or Japan? I mean, they wouldn't go into all the countries, but they would hit the major ones that most people of that age group would probably be aware of, or, the major countries in the world. And later on, it was a game show, like it was a PBS educational game show, and that's where most people remember it from because of the
Hmm.
popularity of television and stuff. But I first played it as a computer game, and we're talking like Commodore 64.
Oh wow,
Yeah, yeah, probably like an Apple II. Like it's
cool.
yeah, like real old. Yeah. So when I see Carmen Sandiego, I immediately have pop culture, history and reference and stuff like that. That goes into my head. But I've heard that it's good. I've heard that it's well animated, and artists that I follow online seem to really like it.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I keep on meaning to check out Hilda. It's on my list as well, and
Oh, I haven't checked that
I
one
have
out yet
not been in the
either.
mood. I did start to watch, and again didn't finish the Witch's Flower, Mary and the Witch's Flower.
Hmm.
It's good. It's weird,
It's weird.
and I at the whole time I'm watching, I'm going like, wow, this is a lot like Harry Potter, but really, Harry Potter is a lot like it because the book that it's based on, I think, predates Harry Potter
Yeah.
by quite a while. And so it's like you said, you had warned me that it wasn't necessarily a complex plot. Like
Yeah.
you kind of get right away, like, oh well, she's too nice to be a good guy. She's a little bit the headmistress there. Like you kind of realize right away, yeah, she's probably a little bit crooked.
Yeah.
Same with the doctor, what's his face. But I find that it's got some typical anime stuff in it that I really don't like, just like the way that lines are delivered and the way that people speak, and it's a lot of repetition, and it's just like
Mm.
and again, I realize it's not aimed at me, but it makes me feel dumb, and I don't like it when cartoons talk down to kids. So
Yeah.
I was a little bit on the fence. I've just been watching it, kind of tuning out what's going on and looking at the backgrounds because the background painting in it is beautiful.
It's so nice. Like it
It's a
looks really, really good.
Visually it's very cool. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit. But it just seems to be the plot is very much on the nose. But I've been looking
Mm.
for more animation, which is why I got into Batman because I was in the mood to watch animation that was just really well done, and I feel like I found what I was looking for with Echo Batman. But I'll put Carmen Sandiego on my list. That sounds like it's Sounds like it's
It
a
was really, really
fresh
good.
take. Is it anything like Kim Possible? It seems to remind me of Kim Possible in the visuals of what I've seen for advertisements and stuff.
Kind of actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, yeah. Because when I was thinking of Player, I was thinking that Player is very reminiscent of Wade. Except I
Right.
don't think they've actually met. I don't
Right.
think
It's a digital. It's
like
a yeah.
yeah. I think that Player is like like a kid who kind of stays at his house all the
Mm,
time on the
mm,
computer. He's like a
mm-hmm.
little hacker kid. Um, he introduced himself as like a white like a white hat hacker.
Yeah.
And the only reason he hacked in the first place, he was able to get a hold of her, is that the security system and wherever she was really, really low.
Right.
So he's like, I just wanted to let you know, like I was able to get in here, and I'm like a 12-year-old kid, so
Mm,
maybe up your security a little bit.
interesting.
Um, but then she just kind of ended up. He was like her one link because she'd never been. She didn't know where she was in the world when she first kind of grew up. She was just on this island with this school.
Mm,
Didn't know where she was and grew up there all her life because she was like dropped off there as a baby. And then so Claire was her only link to the rest of the world. Um, and So by the time she left, like when she was leaving, she was like, "Where am I? Like, where in the world am I?" Is one of the questions that she asked him. He's like, "Oh, I'm able to figure your location on your phone. Yeah, you're here. Here's where you're in the world." She's like, "Cool," and then she's able to kind of track where she is from there. So like it's kind of like a journey of like self discovery and also discovering the world as well. Like she's read so much about it and she knows a lot about it, but she's never
mm,
seen it, and now it's her being able to see it while
yeah.
also taking down Vile, who she figures out is actually super vile. That's yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
but another
It's
show that I watched kind of by accident and like finished the whole thing on Monday actually was this Japanese drama called Switched, and it's based off of a manga, like a comic book. And I'm usually a little bit skeptical about Japanese dramas because I find like they do this thing where they overact like crazy,
mm,
or everything is like the girls are too clingy to the guys and that's considered cute, or like they'll stalk the boys and whatever.
mm,
This kind of takes it and kind of takes all those tropes and makes it feel a little bit more sinister. So it's about this girl who it's actually quite dark. Like it's this whole like body switching mechanism. It's like a really sinister Freaky Friday,
oh, okay. Yep.
where this girl, the main antagonist, her name's Ayumi, and she, the first scene you see of her, it's like the boy that she likes is confessing that he likes her too and asking her to go out with him, and she's like, great, they're high school kids, so she's like amazing. So it's the next day she's going on her first date with this boy, and she gets a phone call from an unknown number, and the girl on the other end is one of her classmates, and she's threatening to kill herself by jumping off of a building. Um, and it's like there's a huge thing about this whole red moon business. Like there's like a red moon in the sky, that's like really prominent. It's like this weird phenomenon. Um, but everyone everyone's talking about it. So it's like go out
Did you ever
and view
wind
this
up
red
in
moon.
crime
So
school?
apparently, if you like get someone to watch you kill yourself, you switch bodies with them. So this girl, her classmate, kind of her name's Zenko. She like forces the switch. So they switch bodies, and so Zenko assumes Ayumi's life because Zenko actually liked the boy that Ayumi started dating, and her mother was abusive. So Ayumi had this really nice family who really cared for her, and her Zenko's mother didn't really care for her. So it's sort of like it's how Ayumi kind of makes the most out of her situation. She's able to kind of turn all the negative stuff that's happening to her around and kind of seeing the perspective of a different person and how to like be kinder to people because you may not know what they're going through. Um, so it does have like a bit of a moral to it, but it's also taking what usually is considered a comedy of like people switching bodies and making it a little bit darker. Um, and it's on Netflix. I watched the whole thing on Netflix.
Cool.
And Yeah, it was easy to watch. There actually were some surprises that I wasn't expecting. Usually, I find it very obvious,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a couple of twists that I wasn't expecting in there at all. And it's a 6 episode series, so it's easy to watch in like a
Yeah,
day.
that's not terribly long.
Um,
I would much rather have fewer episodes of higher content. I mean, at the end of it, when
yeah,
you're done, you realize that you're gonna have to wait a long time for more episodes. Because you can't space it out as much. So even if you only watch one a day, that's only a week. Of evening chill time. But I would much prefer 6 than 10 episodes and have 4 of them be kind of throwaway, right?
yeah, yeah. And that's one thing that I actually really appreciate about like Korean dramas anywhere, like or like Asian dramas in general, is that it's um they definitely put, at least with their dramas, because it takes so much money to produce the drama, it's they definitely put a lot of like there's a distinct beginning, middle, and end. They do have a clear arc. There's no like, oh, we're just gonna write this season and then we're gonna have this other big thing happen for the next season. So you come in to watch next season. Like, I don't know. I feel like American TV or North American TV in general is very like they don't have a clear, distinct ending for
Mm.
things. Or if they do, it takes forever to get there and there's no conclusion. I'm looking at you, How I Met Your Mother. Like the ending
Yeah,
didn't have any sense. Like it had this whole premise. It went on for 9 years. At the end, you really didn't know how he met her mother.
yeah,
How he met the kids. Like it didn't end. Like I don't know. So this one having a nice, distinct, like clean packaged ending was nice because it did distinctly end. It could be renewed for another season, but it probably won't be. And even if it isn't, it still has a good. It feels there's a lot of closure
mm.
with the story, which is nice.
Nice,
Um, so it doesn't keep you. It keeps you hanging on, but it doesn't keep you hanging on for 1,000 years to the
nice.
point where it's like, ugh, like this is enough. I like how things have. I like it when things are a clear, distinct ending, and not like a TV show that's just like we're gonna write as much as possible and just keep adding on episodes just to see where this goes and then hope for the
Yeah,
best.
yeah. Like
Right? Like,
I would much rather have a concise adventure, beginning to end,
mm,
say for example in a superhero show, and then in the next season be looking forward to, well, I don't know what their next adventure is going to be, not the bowl of the season ender to be continued stuff. Like it just because I would much rather have the thing end and have a cool, because the season enders are never good. Like they're never, it's always the same tropey cliffhanger of like this dimensional portal opened, or there's a new character that's introduced in the last 15 minutes of the show and we don't know who it is. And like I would rather have the thing wrap up, have everybody walk into the sunset, and then be excited the next season to be like, whoa, okay, no idea where they're going to
what's
start, like
happening? Yeah.
what adventure is going to be happening next, and there's always, because if it's a popular show, then you're going to hear casting and stuff like that, and you're going to find out, who's going to be in it. So and so is cast as the villain or something this season, and that's always exciting. But I would much
Mm,
rather have things wrap up in, even not even season arcs. I would much rather, especially for larger television shows that I don't follow anymore, I would much rather have, even half seasons, kind of like wrap it up before Christmas and then just start as if you're on season 6.5, in January, and go from there.
yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't gone back. I keep on meaning to, because I'm curious how they handle it. I do always like the crossover of the DC shows, like when Flash and Arrow and Legends and Supergirl
Yeah.
all cross over at Christmas time. They seem to do a really good job with those, and they're always
They do.
fun. And I think it's
They are always
because the
fun.
the shows that I don't like, say Arrow, that suffer from their own, looking at themselves too much. Um, Other shows like Flash and Supergirl, which I do like, I just can only watch so much of them at a time. When they're all together, they tend to balance out. Like there's enough funny, there's enough behind the scenes. Like you get to see the Kara and the Barry kind of joshing around, and then you also get to see
Hmm.
Supergirl and Flash kicking tail, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like they do. The problem with them is that you do have to figure out like which series is part one. Like you have to figure out which episode of Arrow you have to download, and which episode, not download, or find or watch or whatever. You have to figure out
Yeah.
which episode of each series, and they're never all available. Like, Supergirl and Flash, or Flash is available on Netflix, but Supergirl isn't, and then Arrow is just not available anywhere. And then it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it just makes it so hard. Like we, I know I'm a broken record on this show, and I keep on hammering at this, but I really wish that there was an easier way for people to just pay and consume what they want. The we were talking a little bit pre-show about YouTube and the algorithms, and I think you even mentioned something about YouTube being not short-lived, but like these changes are not looking good for the long-term future of this kind of platform,
No, it's
because
not.
of
Yeah.
the hurdles that they're trying to jump. And I don't think the way that studios are handling these streaming services, having everybody have their own separate streaming service, it's not what
That's
customers want. And
because people
customers,
are going to go back to downloading.
yep, they're just going to bail. They're just being like, nope, this is too complicated. It's too much money. Everything's separate. It's we're getting
And
very, very
everything is
close.
like $15 a month.
Yeah, we're getting very, very close to like, well, I pay $150 a month for, 40 channels on television and I have to sort through each one and watch commercials. Well, now you're just paying the same amount of money for, 10 or 15 different services, provided that they all launch. And like in 10, not 10, in 3 years, when everybody has their own service, if you want to watch something on every service, you're going to have to pay a large amount of money. Not that you have
Yeah.
to. You have the opportunity to not pay as much, which is good, but it's going to be the same problem. Streaming services are the new channels. Like
Yeah.
it's the same but different. And instead
Yeah.
of, companies like your cable provider getting the money, it's going to be the production companies directly. And that's fine. It's cutting out the middleman, but it's not good for the consumer, right? Like
No.
it doesn't help.
Well,
Like you,
when do companies really care about the good of the
well,
consumer,
that's true
though?
too. I mean, they all have the bottom line. And I mean, I get that. Like, I understand that they're trying to run businesses, but like, you look at something like Netflix, and Netflix, granted, it sucks in Canada because of the copyright problems, which is
Yeah.
neither here nor there as far as this discussion is concerned, but it captures a lot of stuff. And until
Yeah.
Disney launches their own channel and like Star Wars and Marvel and the animated movies and stuff disappear off of Netflix, right now, there's a lot of good content on Netflix. They've got their original programming. They've got stuff from Disney and Marvel. They've got stuff from DC. Like, I think Justice League was
Yeah.
on there at one point. Like
Yep.
they have that ability because Netflix is becoming that thing. There was I know I mentioned Daily Tech News Show earlier in the show, and they were talking just the other day about a rumor about companies that would buy Netflix. And I mean, the conversation and my thought immediately was the same, and that is Netflix is not a company to be bought. They are up there with the big Amazons and Googles and other companies.
Yeah. They
Because
started it.
yeah, so they're not looking like they don't want to be purchased, and even if they were, no one has the money because they're
No.
worth something like 189 billion or something
Yeah.
the estimate. It's like that's a ton. That's a ton of money, and that's the kind of thing. But like when you look at now, granted, Disney could rival that with their own streaming service in terms of the content. But like you look at anything else, like DC, you look at HBO. Like HBO's got good content, but it's not Netflix, right? Like you
No.
don't have the endless amount of international content, right? A lot of these new
Yeah.
services are basically North American, right? Or very
Yeah.
much English speaking world stuff. So anyway, end of the rant. I'm curious to see where it all goes, but I'm hoping that I feel like as a customer, we're going to go through a low point before people start to clue in and realize, oh,
We're getting
if
there.
we make our stuff streaming and available to any streaming service, and then just let customers decide, as long as we're getting a royalty on the thing being on whatever streaming service, then we can just make money that way. Like it's
Yeah.
about making your content available, not putting it behind a closed system. And so far, the development and the rumors that I've seen and reporting that I've seen about these new services, they don't seem to get that, which is problematic. Well,
Yeah.
that is about all the time that we have this week. Both Megan and I have got some busy weeks ahead, so we're going to wrap it up here a little bit early. If you are interested in supporting the show, the Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported, and you could help out. You can go to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Supporting at any level gets you access to the Citadel Cafe Discord. Actually, it's my personal Discord server, but there's a lot of stuff going on in there. We talk about Lego, we talk about movies. There's this new feature in Discord which I thought was very funny. It's called the spoiler feature, where you can actually put things behind double brackets or double vertical brackets, and
I love it.
it will black it out, which is hilarious because it can be used both for technical spoiler stuff, but it can also be used for jokes, which is what we've been using it for.
Yeah.
So it's
I
pretty
love
funny.
it.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So check that out at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. And we are currently, I think we're at the same number of patrons. We were at 15 in January, and we're still at 15 in February. My goal is to always bring us up by at least one patron a month. So if you're on the fence, or if you have any questions, I had a number of people email me for the Spawn Chunks, a separate podcast, but they had questions about Patreon. They weren't sure how it worked. So if you're not sure, then drop me a line, thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. More than happy to explain how it all works. But just know that the money goes back into supporting the podcast. It goes back into things like microphones and hosting services and all that kind of stuff, and helps keep the show going. TheCitadelCafe.com is where you can find show notes about all the different stuff that Megan and I talked about today. The music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. Email the show, as I mentioned, at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com, or find us by name on Twitter and Facebook, wherever you hang your social media hat. You can find the Citadel Cafe podcast on your favorite podcast platform. That includes iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. While you're out there, leave us a review. It really helps with discoverability on new platforms. You can also just tell friends about the show. You will be surprised how far word of mouth will go. Everything I am doing online is at joelduggan.com. Links to podcasts, links to Twitch streams, YouTube, all of it. It's all there. You can listen to my other podcast, The Spawn Chunks, which is about Minecraft, on Mondays. Megan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Megan Townsend. And if they want to follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanon, that is HEIR for air, that is on Instagram as well.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.